Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started with our webinar for the month of April. And we're going to be focusing today on working with borrowers in the pre-foreclosure stage of the process. We have a full agenda for today, and I want to kind of introduce you to what's going to be happening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rick Sharga. I'm the founder and CEO of CJ Patrick Company, which is a market intelligence and business advisory firm for real estate and mortgage companies. I'm also the chairman this year of AREAA's default task force, who is putting on today's webinar, and delighted to have a number of high-profile guests with us, joined by Tony Martinez, who owns the CDPE franchise, which is the Certified Distressed Property Expert certification, which thousands of agents have taken and have learned to work with borrowers who need to execute either a short sale or a traditional sale in order to avoid a foreclosure. Also joined by Rudy Kasuma and Debbie Giavaris, who are agents who have actually practiced some of those teachings and are here to share some real-world examples with you of how they've worked with borrowers to help those borrowers out of financial distress, but also generate listings and revenue for themselves in the process. So I'm going to walk you through some current market statistics just to give you an idea of what's going on relative to foreclosures, and then turn it over to Tony for his section on CDPE, and we'll wrap up with Debbie and Rudy talking to us a bit about their practices. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and pull up some slides and walk you through just a few minutes of detail on what we're seeing in today's foreclosure market. If I can get the right screen up here. There we go. So can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. So I'm just going to, again, kind of walk through this pretty quickly. We're going to take a look at mortgage delinquencies. We're going to take a look at foreclosure activity, foreclosure starts versus completions, and what our outlook is for the rest of 2023. Mortgage delinquency rates picked up a little bit in the fourth quarter, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, but they picked up just about to where they would normally be historically. So in most normal markets, we have about 4% of loans that are delinquent. We have another 1% that are in foreclosure. And as things ticked up a little bit in the fourth quarter, in part because of natural disasters that led people to be a little bit delinquent on their loans, they got up to just below historically normal levels of delinquency. One of the things that you should keep in mind is that one of the reasons we saw the uptick in delinquencies was because of early stage delinquencies, 30-day mortgage delinquencies, which increased faster than the other two stages of delinquency did. And you'll also see that FHA loans were probably the biggest culprit here, jumping up to about 5% delinquency rates in the early stages, which again is something to keep in mind as we go forward. Those FHA borrowers are likely to be a little bit more vulnerable than conventional borrowers are. But whatever kind of loan you were looking at, whether it was FHA, VA, conventional loans, everything bumped up a little bit in that fourth quarter. But again, mostly early stage delinquencies. If you look at January and February numbers, similar stories. This from Black Knight, where we see overall delinquency rates actually not too far above historically low numbers. So bottom line is most homeowners, most borrowers in pretty good shape. There are some red flags in terms of an uptick in credit card usage, lower savings rates, households struggling a little bit with high inflation, but by and large, the severity of delinquency rates really isn't outside of normal bounds. Something to keep an eye on if we do enter into a recession. Jobless rates tend to track very closely with delinquency rates and foreclosure rates. And if we do see an increase in unemployment, we're likely to start seeing a little bit more in terms of delinquencies. One red flag is we are seeing a little bit more early delinquencies on new loans. So loans issued in 2022 are performing a little bit worse than in recent years. And it could be because some borrowers came in at the peak of the market, don't have a lot of equity, and may be struggling a little bit because of the cost of inflation. What we're seeing in way of foreclosures is below normal activity. It's picked up a little bit, but as I mentioned, usually about 1% of loans, as high as 1.5% of loans are in foreclosure at any point in time. And right now we're at just a little over 0.5%. And foreclosure starts are much lower than normal. If you look at this chart, it gives you an idea historically what foreclosure starts look like. That's the first legal notice a borrower gets. And they're back up to about 80% of the levels they were prior to the pandemic in 2019. So we're seeing foreclosure start activity get closer to where we were prior to the pandemic. We're not seeing a lot of those properties get to auction. So if we're at 80% of foreclosure start activity, this is data from auction.com, which handles about 50% of the auctions that are out there. And you can see that they're running at about 48% of their normal volume of activity in terms of auctions. And bank repossessions that are going to auction are running at about 40% of pre-pandemic levels. So we're seeing fewer of these properties actually make it as far as the auction. And we're seeing an even smaller number actually becoming REOs, becoming bank-owned properties. And the reason I'm sharing this with you to kind of set you up for Rudy's and Debbie and Tony's discussion is that in the prior cycle, if you were an agent participating in this part of the market, your strategy really was to wait for the REO and get listings to sell from the bank, from the lenders. This is running at about 28% of pre-pandemic levels, and there's reason to believe that in this cycle, we're going to see fewer properties than in previous cycles make it all the way back as REOs. A couple of reasons for this, but this is another chart from auction.com that just shows you how many fewer properties are even getting as far as the auction. And so a couple things. We have a large number of homes that are in delinquency status, again, back to kind of normal levels. We have fewer properties making it into foreclosure from delinquency. We have fewer properties that are delinquent getting as far as the auction, and we have fewer properties getting through the auction. So we're seeing less properties get to auction, and the properties that do get to auction tend to be selling there at much higher rates. The sell-through rate at an auction right now is about 60 to 65%, whereas prior to the pandemic, it was 30 to 35%. So your strategy as an agent really can't be to wait for the REO this time. There's just not going to be that many. And the other reason for that is there's a massive amount of homeowner equity held by borrowers, even those in foreclosure. So when I did this chart, there were about 270,000 people in foreclosure. Almost 100,000 of those people had equity between 20 and 50% in their homes. Another 60-some thousand had between 50 and 75% equity in their homes, and 35,000 had over 75% equity. These are borrowers who should never lose a home to a foreclosure auction, and borrowers that as an agent you can reach out and help execute a soft landing, help them tap into that equity and make sure they don't lose it at a foreclosure sale. Right. This is the other reason we believe we're going to see fewer REOs. In the last cycle, you wouldn't have seen this kind of equity. Just about everybody in foreclosure was underwater on their loans. It's why we saw a lot of short sales activity, but it's why a lot of these properties ultimately went back to the banks. Very different cycle, very different behavior. Agents need to practice an entirely different form of real estate if they're going to participate here. So just kind of an outlook for the year, foreclosure activity is increasing. It will likely continue to increase, probably won't be back to pre-pandemic levels until the end of this year, beginning of next year. I believe that REO activity is going to lag overall foreclosure activity because of what we talked about in terms of homeowner equity, because of homeowner assistance funds that are available to help people who are in financial distress. And frankly, just the time it takes to execute a foreclosure nationally right now, on average, it's about 900 days to do a foreclosure. So even foreclosures that are starting this year won't be REOs anytime soon. There is likely to be a recession this year, according to most of the economists I follow, but it shouldn't drive unemployment so high that we're going to see a huge number, excuse me, of delinquencies and foreclosures, but we might get up to more normal levels. And then home prices are likely to decline. We're actually seeing them decline in some markets, coastal California, Pacific Northwest, some of the Zoom towns like Boise and Phoenix that had ridiculous home price appreciation over the last few years. And where we do have borrowers going underwater, they're going to need even more help to avoid a foreclosure. but the likelihood is that we're going to continue to have a relatively small percentage of borrowers underwater. If there are going to be borrowers underwater, it's likely to be in the FHA portfolio and maybe private loans as well. So that's kind of the outlook for the rest of the year. There are going to be more foreclosures, certainly not a tsunami like we saw last time. So there will be business, but again, I'm encouraging agents to kind of look upstream and be looking to help borrowers that are in the early stages of foreclosures rather than wait for those REOs. And Tony's going to walk you through what they've learned at CDP, and then Debbie and Rudy can share some of their personal experience with you. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn this over to Tony and let him share some of his thoughts with you as well.
Hey, Rick, excellent job as always. Can you guys see my screen okay there? All right, everyone, thank you for this opportunity. It truly is a pleasure and honor to be with these distinguished individuals over here. Now, Rick and I follow Rick all the time, and we've gotten into some great conversations. We agree on just about everything, but there are a couple of things that I see a little bit differently that from Rick does. And again, I have the utmost respect, but I'm bringing a different perspective so that everyone can kind of get a complete package. So I'm coming to you from a broker perspective because I am a broker owner in South Florida. I have a couple hundred agents under my wings here. I have been teaching agents about the short sale process for many years now. At least 15,000. That's the number I've been using because I'm too lazy to update the slide, but I'm thinking that number is considerably higher than that. But I think one of my crowning achievements was that 2 years ago in May coming up, I acquired the CDPE designation and course, which had actually shut down. It had gone away. And this was something that I just had a feeling that needed to come back into the market. Debbie and Rudy are what I call OGs. They're part of the old guard or original gangsters. They can go ahead and take their pick, but they were OGs back in the day, and they right away saw that what I was doing was needed. So let me just start off with this disclaimer. I am not an economist. You know, when I hear Rick speak, I go, wow, I wish I had that knowledge of numbers and stats and facts and all those kind of things. No, that's not me, but I'm also not this guy. And let me introduce you to this guy. This is the guy I deal with every single day of the week, because every single day of the week, I'm approaching leaders in the industry, whether they're broker owners or team leaders or executives. And I'm saying, you know, foreclosures never went away. I don't know why people are under the impression that somehow they magically disappeared. But yeah, they were put on pause, on hold for a couple of years there because of COVID and the moratoriums. But bad things happen to good people in any market. And they never went away, but I suspect that there's going to be more coming down the road. And this is where sometimes we can agree to disagree as far as what the numbers will be. And I'm definitely one of the ones that believes that I'm hoping and praying it's not going to be like 2008, 9, and 10. And it really shouldn't be anywhere near anything like that. But here's my feeling. To anyone that's going through foreclosure, for them, it's bad enough. Because it saddens me when someone says it's not going to be as bad. Now think about it. How bad does it have to be when one person is being kicked out of their home? So it drives me bonkers when I can't enter into a conversation with leaders about the need to explore this niche. I'm not saying that distressed properties is the market. No, it's not. It was in 08, 9, and 10, but it's a niche now, a niche, however you want to pronounce it. And I don't think it's wise for we as industry professionals to act as though blah, 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 nothing is happening, because the numbers say otherwise. So I'm a big proponent that working distressed properties can be very profitable for the real estate professionals that take advantage of the fact it's low-hanging fruit. Now, why is it low-hanging fruit? Because the typical real estate agent either is unaware that they exist or too afraid to engage them. And this is why they should stay away from them like the plague. And this is the other thing. I had to create a meme to explain this because I couldn't do it any other way. You know how many times people have told me there's not going to be a foreclosure problem? I go, pray tell me, enlighten me. Why? They say because people have so much equity. And I always say, you're right. There's significantly more equity in the market right now than there was in 08, 9, and 10. Rick and I are on the same page as far as that's concerned. But here's my point. Having equity and being able to make your payments are two separate issues. There are individuals right now that may be sitting on a decent sum of money, but they won't be able to tap it. The minute they fall behind on their payments, they won't be able to get a HELOC. They won't be able to get refinancing. And then we could argue that Americans have been using their homes as ATMs for how many years now? And how much of this equity they've already tapped. So let's not go there. For right now, let's just focus on the fact that how is it possible that someone with any equity allows their home to be foreclosed on, when what they could simply do is list with a real estate professional like one of you and sell it like a regular sale, exit with dignity, and get whatever money they can. This is what I'm professing. New numbers came out today from adamdata.com. Foreclosures are up 22% this quarter over last year and 6% over the month before. And these are the top 5 states. Rudy, congratulations. And then, Illinois, they're never going to be left out. Great state of Florida is number 3. And I just taught last week in the great state of Texas, and they're number 2. So imagine me entering into a discussion, I won't say argument, discussion with a leader, and they say there's no foreclosures. And I say, I guess these numbers must be wrong. Now, let's just look at the counties. And this is just January. I don't have any more recent data, but there's Cook County, hey, Debbie, LA County, Texas, Arizona, California, Broward County, where I reside. These are the top 10 counties across the country. A different stat altogether was last year of the top 10 zip codes, the top 10 zip codes for foreclosure, Ohio had 8 of them. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a distinction you don't want to have. So maybe we're not going to see a tsunami. No, I am not expecting a tsunami, but I am expecting an increase in foreclosures because the eviction moratoriums are done. You know that even in LA County, they're done. LA County had its own thing going on, and that's just recently ended. So as far as I know, there's very few pockets left in the country where you can just live free. Now it's either get caught up, work something out with the bank, or the banks can and will initiate foreclosure action. We've been seeing the feds do their best to get a handle on inflation, and they're not done. They've made it very clear they want 2% inflation. We're at 5% right now. Now, it's amazing that the 5% doesn't include, I don't know, things like grocery and energy, which is the most expensive things we're paying for right now. But who am I to go ahead and get into the weeds on that? Are we going to have a recession? Depends who you ask. Did we have a recession last year? Technically, we did. Could we have one? Well, look at history. Anytime the feds have done aggressive maneuvers to get inflation under control, the end result typically has not been a soft landing. So we're already seeing a lot happen in the tech sector, and now it's starting to spread into other sectors. So here's what my advice to you. Who cares what's going on across the country? Focus on what's going on in your market. Right? Pay attention to your local manufacturers, large employers, see what they're up to, because that's what counts. Yes, unemployment is going to go up. It's just an end result of it. We're already seeing an uptick. And just keep in mind, about 62 to 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Another report came out yesterday that over half of Americans, if they lost their job, could not afford groceries. Another report came out that an alarming number of Americans are buying groceries with the charge now, pay later option. 47% of Americans, only 47% of Americans could afford a $1,000 emergency expense out of their savings account. We're not a nation of savers. We're a nation of spenders. Our consumer debt is at a high now of $16.9 trillion. So why do I keep saying these things? Is because it's not front page news, but in many homes across America right now, they're struggling. And more are going to struggle. And since we've never been a nation of savers, many folks are one paycheck away from their first month's default. When they go into 4 months default, the banks have at it. Federal law prohibits them from being able to initiate foreclosure action until the consumer, the borrower, is at least 120 days late. Why talk about this? Let's just talk about the fact that in 2006, when we feared that there may have been a housing bubble, the individual or groups that fought this the hardest was the real estate industry. We did not want to accept that maybe, just maybe, we had a problem looming. But we're already seeing this across the country. We're seeing this in California. We're seeing this in areas like Texas and Nevada, even in Florida. We haven't seen our prices dip yet, but our list prices are really starting to come down. So just a matter of time. And when we go back to how equity rich we are, what is it based on? I'll give you an example. There's a neighborhood around the corner from my house, my office. One of my agents listed a property there, sold it within days for $60,000 over appraised price. So what is the true value of that property? If something should happen right now, do they have 60,000 extra in equity in that property? Remember, equity and being able to make your payments, not the same thing. But pay attention, because this report came out a couple, 3 months ago. 270,000 home buyers who bought last year are already underwater. Think about who's the most vulnerable.
FHA.
Rick said it, the FHA buyers. They went in with only 3.5% down. It doesn't take much of an adjustment in price for them to be on the line, if not already underwater. And it's not just FHA buyers, people with 5% down. What about veterans that bought with 0% down? These are the things to pay attention to. In 1 quarter alone last year, 1 quarter, with just a 2.6% reduction in value, we lost $1.3 trillion in equity from the market. That's just 1 quarter. I believe more foreclosures are on the way. Will it be as bad as 2008? Well, here's 2008, 100-foot tsunami. Here's the guy standing on the rock saying, what am I going to do? In 2023 and 2024, same rock, different person, I hope. And this tsunami maybe is only a 20-footer, not a 100-footer. You ever had a 20-footer come in your way? You're not thanking your lucky stars. It's not a 100-footer, I guarantee you. But how many short sales are we going to have? Nowhere near like before. I hope not. See, here's the thing. There is more equity. I'm the first one to admit that. But the problem is that homeowners with equity are letting their homes be foreclosed on because they don't know the law. They don't know their rights. And they're being preyed upon. They're being scammed on. We had someone that was offered $10,000 to sign over the deed to their home. And we were able to get them to sell the property, and they walked away with $80,000 by selling the property. And this was a property that was going into foreclosure in just a few days, but because it was a skilled real estate agent, they knew what to do. So whether it's a regular sale or a short sale, doesn't matter. Engage them, approach them. Let them know that foreclosure is not the only option. Run the numbers. Where there's equity, it's a regular sale, but keep an eye on the clock. And when it's underwater, then at least learn how to do short sales. There's opportunity within chaos to help distressed homeowners and build your business. Now, quickly, I want to share a little extra from my classes, from my training, because you have to know how costly foreclosure can be to someone. It's something that stays with them virtually forever. The foreclosure will be on their record for at least 7 years. If they go bankruptcy, it's 10 years. And that prevents them from getting a traditional loan for maybe 5 to 7 years. But if you help them accomplish a short sale, they could go ahead and buy again as little as 2 to 3 years. And it's so much less invasive of their privacy. Now, I'm moving quickly because I want to give a lot of time to our star guest today. There's issues that come up with employment. Sometimes they can't get hired because they have a foreclosure under a record. Sometimes they get let go because they have a foreclosure under a record. God help them if they have a security clearance. Because in many scenarios, a security clearance can be threatened when there is a foreclosure or bankruptcy, but not so when there's a short sale, right? In the areas that allow, states that allow for deficiency judgments, meaning that the lender can go after the borrower for what they lost, this can be devastating for them. And the good, see, here's a problem people don't understand. When you go into foreclosure and it's done, the lender never saw your situation. They never saw your financials. They could suspect that maybe something's amiss, something is wrong, and maybe you withheld money. When we do a short sale for someone because they're underwater, we disclose everything. So the lender knows there's nothing to go after, folks. You can't bleed a rock. So there's no advocate for that consumer in a foreclosure, but in a short sale, a skilled agent can be that advocate. And let's face it, many of the real estate agents in our business right now were not licensed back in 08, 9, and 10, so they haven't been through this. So short sales was alien then, and it feels even as much or more alien now because of the lack of access to this. Well, I'll say this. This is what my course is the best in the country at, teaching you everything you need to know. Let's start with, if you're not underwater, don't think short sales. You have to be underwater. That's the first thing. What does that mean? That you can't sell the house for enough to cover everything that's owed against it. Not only that, plus you have to know all the liens against it, how much is the closing cost going to be, and what your sales commission is going to be. Is there enough for everybody to walk out whole? And if not, then it may be a potential short sale. And that involves getting the property on the market as a short sale, getting a qualified patient buyer, getting a package assembled, sending it to at least 1 or 2 banks, maybe 3, also an association, and making sure you get approval from all these. Are you going to do this? No. Who's going to do all that? The skilled negotiator that you're going to bring on your team. I teach you how. If the bank says yes, then it's one of the smoothest closings you're going to have, because there's actually clear and marketable title to pass on to the others. If I've awakened something in you that says, you know what, you're right, there's people that are going to need help, and there are not many of us in the industry right now that are prepared to help them, then I invite you to take the next level and become a CDPE. I'm not doing a huge sales pitch. I'm just going to let you know this training exists. We do in-person classes. We do online on demand, so you can do it 24/7. I'm going back to doing Zoom-based ones because it combines the best of both worlds. All of this I mentioned, so much more, is $499 for the course, which includes your first year's membership. But write down that website address, write down that coupon code, Zoom100. Between now and Sunday, anyone that uses that coupon code for any of those 3 options can save $100. And feel free to share this with other people in your office, because the more agents we get trained, the better we're going to be, the stronger we'll be as an industry. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right,
Thank you,
Rick.
Tony. Appreciate that. And as you said, we're not necessarily in 100% agreement on some of the outlook, but that's just the way the world works. Sometimes everybody has their own opinion, right?
But one thing though is, you and I are kindred spirits when it comes to the fact that no one with equity. The only thing we disagree on is just to what extent it's going to be in comparison to 2008, right? That's really it. but you were one of the staunchest supporters of the CDP back then. You've been nothing but amazingly supportive to me since I acquired it. And we're saying the same thing. If you have equity, don't let the bank take the house.
Right.
And if you
Right.
don't have equity, don't let the bank take the house. Do a short sale. So when it comes to that, we're brothers.
Appreciate that. So I've seen a couple of questions in the chat area about finding these homeowners in the early stage of foreclosure, and I put up a couple sites that I'm familiar with that make this information available. There's companies like Foreclosure Radar, companies like the one I used to work for, Realty Track, foreclosure.com, websites that make that kind of data available. The company I used to work for, also Atom Data, has lists that you can buy on a one-off basis. They have a product called Atom List, where you can specify you're looking for borrowers in foreclosure in a certain region or zip code or territory, and buy those kind of lists. Tony, do you have any other sources that you direct people to for that kind of information?
Yes, let me first start by saying that's the number one question we get, and it's the easiest one to answer because it's all public record.
Yep.
So they could go right to the courthouse site, right to the foreclosure calendar and get it. Here's the problem. It'll tell you who the homeowners are, who the defendants are. It can tell you where there's a sale date. These are all critical, but you typically don't have contact information. You have an address, but no phone number or email. That's when some of the subscription services out there can be very beneficial. For example, I work closely with RedX. That's one example, because I want to warn you, don't call people unless you scrub the numbers against the do not call list.
Yeah.
You don't want to inadvertently get a $10,000 or $11,000 fine because you stepped over the line. So whatever names and numbers you get, make sure you're scrubbing them against the do not call list.
Yep. Really good advice. Got a question here about putting the website addresses in the chat. So actually, this is the easiest thing in the world. The three companies I mentioned, if you just put their name in there with .com at the end, that's the website. So it's foreclosureradar.com, foreclosure.com, and realtytrack.com. So those are the web addresses to find those subscription-based services. And they'll have different levels of sophistication, different ways to contact the owners, but to Tony's point, you want to be a little bit careful about not violating do not call restrictions when you're reaching out to folks in foreclosure. So this is probably a good time to pull Rudy and Debbie into the conversation a little bit. Did we lose Rudy? There he is.
He's there.
And I just this sounds like it's something that you guys have both done in your practices. So maybe you could share some of your thoughts based on what Tony said and some of the things I've been talking about to give some advice to agents who are interested in getting into this part of the business. Debbie, do you want to start?
Okay, thanks. And I use my title company to provide me with the court records of the foreclosure sales and or the AREAA dates that are set up. And in the last 2 months, I've gotten 1,000 names, and I've kind of scrubbed them out. And some of them are already listed, so I know those names are good because they've already been listed for sale. We check the MLS to see. And then I do a bunch of different things as far as reaching out to those people that have specifically been identified. And I start out with a letter that says, your property address appeared on a list of homes where foreclosure notices were being filed in the courts. I'm writing to offer you my help. This is no charge. I actually, a couple of people said, is this a scam? I went, not a scam, and so then I talk with them, and sometimes I get on the phone with them and the bank and say, I've got, Mr. Smith here, and he's indicate he's got some difficulty and he's going to give you permission to talk to me. And then I just start out with a conversation asking the bank, what's the payoff figure? How many payments have been missed? What does he need to do? Is he eligible for, if it's a COVID still carryover from COVID, is he eligible for some kind of a forbearance or postponement? And I go through those steps, and sometimes they're able to do a request for mortgage assistance, and I help them. I don't do it for them, but I download the documents, I give them to them, I tell them they can do that. And I can't really help them with that because I'm a licensed realtor and my job is to help you exit your property with dignity if that's what you desire. But I also say to them, but just remember that there are people that since I've just worked for you for free, there are people that that may need some help, whether it be a short sale or a regular sale or whatever. And you can see, it doesn't cost you anything for a consultation. So that's how I start out with that. I do some other ways of reaching people, my sphere, and I want to back up a second and say that I'm one of the old gangsters. I've been doing short sales since 2009. And I include in that letter, I've taken off the street addresses, but I don't know if you can see this anywhere. Yeah. So I've included in that letter just the towns and the street names. And I've said here, all of these short sales were negotiated with forgiveness of remaining debt. And so people go down. I mean, I've gone and met with people and they go, oh yeah, I see you sold a house in my neighborhood or whatever. So, I build trust that way. Also, I've gotten a couple of attorneys that have written some very nice references, and then some consumers. And I don't put I just say Jim and Nancy G. I don't, give them out any information. But that's what goes into a letter that I send to homeowners that I've identified on these foreclosure sale lists. And as you mentioned, Rick, the foreclosure.com, foreclosure radar, all of those people would be able to give you that information. As Tony mentioned, the Red X would even give you names, phone numbers, and email addresses. I personally don't want to run the risk of messing up with calling somebody that's on the do not call. So I let them call me. Once they've called me, then we can enter into dialogue. And I'm staying pretty busy just with that. But then also I sent out a letter to attorneys and said, you may run into some people that need some help, and I'm a resource for them. And there's no charge, again, to those people unless they end up selling their home. And if it's a short sale, the bank will pay that. So I'm reassuring people all along that I'm not out to get some money, because I could tell you some of the horror stories these people are telling me about. One guy wants $6,000 a month from them to do foreclosure defense. And I'm like, oh man. You could be paying your mortgage and paying other things. So anyway, but those are the things that happen. So I always tell them there's no charge for an initial, confidential conversation. Then there are a lot of agents, as Tony mentioned, that were not in the business or never had the appetite to do a short sale. So they know I will do it for them, and I'll give them a referral fee, or if they want a co-list on it, I'll let them go ahead and get all the glory to be in the MLS and do the 18 contracts like I just got on one of my short sales and the 125 showings. How's that for crazy? I let them do that if they want to. And then I work with the situation with once we get an offer that they want to work with. So my sources are, of course, my sphere, attorneys, letters to people in the foreclosure or that the title company has given me that are on the list, and then agents. And one of the things I particularly like is we have a whole bunch of resources through the CDPE, as Tony mentioned, and we're not pushing those, but it gives some credibility. I actually have a website that says Save Your Home Chicagoland, and on the back, these business cards are in car washes and everywhere that just say experiencing mortgage difficulties. Scan the QR code on the other side to find out foreclosure alternatives. And people call and say, yeah, I want help, and they're embarrassed. But then when I get on the phone with the bank and them, and they hear everything, all of a sudden they feel empowered that they can maybe get out of this situation. And some of them have called and the foreclosure sale is 2 weeks away, and the bank just is real hard and says, no, it's too late. We're not going to do it. But you know, I've helped at least a few people stay in their homes. So,
Yeah,
and many sell them and get
some really
relocation money and
some
whatever.
really good points there, Debbie, and great concepts to share. I think every agent on the call today probably has a relationship with somebody from a title company. Every agent on the call today probably has relationships with other agents who are retail specialists, don't know anything about the foreclosure market, and the notion of being able to get referral fees for something they don't want to do would probably be a good revenue stream for some of our folks. And I do think it's important for everybody to recognize the fact that there are a lot of shady characters out there who are trying to take advantage of financially distressed borrowers, and positioning yourselves as an alternative, a legitimate alternative to those kind of not so nice folks, is probably something that's extraordinarily helpful and well received by a lot of these borrowers. Something to keep in mind, however, is that for many of these borrowers who are probably still in denial, the last thing they really want to ever do is sell the house. And so it probably takes a little bit of time for them to get to that conclusion that their best alternative is really going to be to sell the house rather than lose everything. And the understanding that the longer they wait, the more equity they burn through, and the less positive that end result is going to be. But Rudy, what would you add to this, and what do you do that's the same or different than what Debbie just talked about?
Debbie hits it on the nail. I first got my license in 2007, Rick.
Oh God,
I remember
the
2007, got my license, October 2007. The brokerage that I was with shut down literally within 3 days. 300 real estate agents, everybody quit. I'm one of the, there's 5 people left. In 2008, moved to Coldwell Banker, become the #1 agent in Coldwell Banker in my office, 2008, 2009. And I can, unlike Debbie, I'm going to push CDPE. And the reason I truly believe the reason I can help so many people within my first year, I never sell anything in my life, don't know anything about real estate. It's truly what I learned from that CDPE. So there are 3. And like Debbie mentioned just now, the cool thing about this, it's a specialization, right? So I think Napoleon Hill is the one that says that you want to be successful, specialize. So back in 2008-9, take CDPE, I don't even know anything. And all I knew is that all the other agents, they're quitting the business. And they're looking at me working on my first short sale listing, and everybody in my office, Coldwell Banker office, they give me a listing. They look at me and say, young man, you look like you have nothing to do. You are a brand new agent. You look like you can waste your time doing these short sales because these short sales going to take forever and nothing's going to happen. So I say, sure. I don't really know what's going on. I took all these referral, and they just give it to me. And then I look at my CDP, they give you a workbook. I literally follow the workbook, no thinking required. They give me the form. I use the form. I wasn't even thinking, right? I'm a coachable guy. Just follow step 1, step 2, step 3. I go to a bank back then, 2008, 2009. There was no, when we submit a short sale package, I literally have to stand in front of my fax machine for literally 4 or 5 hours, legit, no exaggeration. And then at the end of that 5 hours, the bank told me, well, you are missing page 70 and 85. I'm like, so the cool thing about this, so there are 3 things that I want to share with you about this CDPA. The first one is positioning, right? Either you could be a brand new agent or veteran agent, because back in 2008, 9, 10, all these experienced agents, they're quitting the business. So positioning, you got to position ourselves. You got to position yourself as a specialized in something. And the reason I personally, till this day, the reason I love CDP is because truly you are helping people. That leads to my second one. It's called clients for life. Many of the clients that I helped back in 2007, 8, 9, 10, till today is 2023, till today, sending me multiple business, sending me their family and friends. Yep. Really, there is no incentive, there is no referral fees, nothing, because you legitimately, like Debbie mentioned just now, you legitimately save a family life. You literally change the direction where that family is heading. So number 1 is positioning, why I love CDPE. The second thing is clients for life, because you're truly helping people, and then that's how you build your clients for life. And then the third thing is leverage. I remember back in 2008, 9, 10, every time I got a listing, remember, I was a brand new agent, don't know anything. I didn't grow up here in US, right? So I have no friends, no family and friends, no sphere of influence, no nothing. I just get all these free listings that all the other agents just give it to me because nobody want to work this. Everybody think it's a waste of time. So we leverage, I accidentally leveraging one listing to generate more listing because every time I do one listing, I still remember everybody, I still couldn't comprehend what happened because I was a brand new agent prior to getting my real estate license. I was just selling stuff in Swapmeet, you know? So I have no experience about real estate. Your economy just now, powerful. I knew nothing about it. So in 2008, when all these agents saying the market is slow, I really couldn't wrap my head around it because every one of my every time of my listing, people are literally lining up the door. 2008, 2009, 2010, every single one of my listing. So as a brand new agent, 2007, started with CDPE, and that's how I started the team. And then the last 5 years, my team and I, we sold over 400 or 500 homes a year, #1 team in RE/MAX for California. And in 2019, we launched our own brokerage. But the point that I'm trying to share is the reason I have no incentive from, I'm not an owner of CDP. Maybe Tony should after this, but I have no ownership of CDP. I couldn't, but the reason I legitimately endorse and I want to encourage you, I want to push you to sign up for CDP is because it truly changed, at least for me, right? It truly changed it's not just my life, but right now in our team, in the last 12 months, my team and I, we sold over 1,027. So indirectly, the genesis of all that, one can argue that because of the skills that I learned from CDPE. So those are the three things. #1, positioning, because you got to position as the expert. #2, clients for life, because you truly make a difference in people, like legitimately, you're helping people. #3, you leverage your one listing, you leverage your one happy clients, you leverage your one 5-star reviews from a happy clients to generate more business, because the currency, we make money from this for sure, but we are not talking about, but more important than money is the 5-star reviews that you get from these families, because you're legitimately helping people. 5-star reviews, the number of repeat business, and the number of referrals, and that's powerful. And then what I did as far as the marketing, Rick, the cool thing about CDPE, not only they teach you how to do all this and they give you this cool workbook that you can just copy and paste and stuff. That's cool. But then what I really like about CDPE, because we all know in real estate business, we can know the ins and outs of real estate. You can be the best real estate agents on the planet, but if you have no customers, that's pretty much useless. So what I like about CDPE, as a brand new agent, they give me all these flyers, and you saw from Debbie just now. So what I did, Rick, I'm a copy, and I believe in I'm just a copycat, you know, but I just have to make sure I copy the right cat, right? So I look at their flyers, their brochures. So I just change my name on it, and then I do a seminars. Remember, I have no customers, and my broker told me, Rudy, you have to do cold calling, prospecting, door knocking, and I don't know, it's not my thing. Maybe people don't understand what I was saying. Remember, English is like my second language. So what I did the seminars. Put it up on Craigslist, put it on meetup.com. People actually come to people come to my Coldwell Banker office, and then what's the topic on the seminar? Remember, I was a brand new agent, know nothing about it. All I did, Rick, I literally go back to my CDPA and then just read it. They give us a special reports every month. Every month they give us a special reports. I copy and paste, put it in my blogs, positioning me as the distressed property expert.
So are you still doing webinars or seminars today?
I'm still doing, right now, my focus is a little bit different. Right now, we are building this team, but the seminar, yes, the seminars, we are doing it through Zoom every Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
And I know you have a business that advertises or markets to people that are looking to sell their house. It's Your Home Sold Guaranteed, I think, .com.
Yeah.
And so is that your way is that another way of finding homeowners who need to get out of their house because of distress?
Yeah, so remember, distress doesn't mean short sale. I think Tony established a good explanation on that, because like Debbie mentioned, the families that's legitimately facing distress, we are all human. So nobody is going to come to you. It's very unlikely. And the one that come to you saying that I need help, I'm facing financial distress, usually those guys are very literally 1 week before, 2 weeks before the actual notice of trust is sale, right? Yeah. But most of the time, the general population will come to you because of the So to answer your question, yeah, because right now we are positioning as we have multiple cash offer on your home. So now we are positioning as the one that's easier. So we just guarantee the sale of their home, right? But I wasn't, remember today is 2023. So I wasn't started like this, right? So when I first get started, I don't have all this. But now to answer your question today, yes, today all we did, we show up at the listing appointments with multiple cash offers on their home. But so the CDPE, it's actually the engine behind it. Now, but to answer your question, Rick, about even the people that come to us 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, Debbie, 2 weeks before the notice of trustee sale, because what I learned from CDPE through the, I learned about, I think one of the technique, the bankruptcy and stuff. So part of my team, the closest I save a family, and this is me as a brand new agent, 2009, 2010, is literally Rick, 1 week before the actual trustee sale. A family came. The house has been in generation for like 5 generations. So this is the 5th generation. He's about to lose their home. They literally wait because it's the bank keep on postponing, literally the last 1 week. And then because of what I learned at the CDP, that family, now we sold that home. It was an equity sale. So the guy is upside down on the mortgage, but it was an equity because the house has been in family for 5th generation. So it's an equity sale. So we are able to sell it. And then he moved to another location.
Really good stuff, both of you. I appreciate it. And Tony, we have a couple minutes left. I wanted to see if anybody has any questions from the attendee group. I didn't see anything posted in the chat. You can either post it in the chat, or I think you can take yourself off mute unless Carrie has you permanently muted. But any questions from any of the attendees? So Tony, I know you're still on. If anybody is interested in learning more about CDPE, where do they look?
CDPE.com.
Could you make it more? Could you make it more complicated, please?
I know. I try. And one of the things I love doing is just training, period. So we have built a community. When someone is a CDPE, we have our own private Facebook group, and we're supporting each other. Imagine having access to veterans like Debbie and Rudy that are willing to also share any information. You find my YouTube channel, and I have all kinds of videos. Just a couple of weeks ago, I did one on lead generation, and it was a free one. It was just all about how do you build your pipeline. So we really do see this as a lead generation tool. Yes, we want to help people. Of course we do. But at the end, we can help more people the longer we're in business, right? So this is really about taking listings. This is a niche that is not sexy, but it's not crowded.
Well, Debbie and Rudy both said something really important. They talked about helping families, helping households that are in distress. And I've always viewed what you guys do, and the opportunity for agents is to do well while doing good. Yeah. And this is one of the few times in life where you really can carve out a win-win proposition, where you put deposit some money in your bank account at the same time that you're actually making a huge difference in a family's future. I have one question, Rudy, for you. I think Debbie talked a little bit about this in her practice, but where do you get your clients? You said you leverage your listings, and I know the client for life makes a lot of sense. I'm sure you get a ton of referrals from those folks. But is there anywhere else that you can share with the group that you get your clients from?
Yes. So when I first got my license, 2007, 2008, don't know anybody, no sphere of influence. So I took the flyers from the CDPE, copy, paste, put it on my blogs. Put my blogs, go to Craigslist. I put on Craigslist, put the reports linked back to my blogs. That's number one, right? So I leverage the special reports that CDPE has provided. Second, I take the same special reports, just take the heading, remove all the body, I go to meetup.com and I make a class out of it. The good thing about CDPE, they give you that special reports every month. So every month I can have a different class, so to speak, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a different class, whatever the topic that they give us. I just copy and paste. I change the heading. I put the heading, copy the heading, and then the body is the description of it. So that's the second thing, meetup.com. The third thing.
Can you spell that? Because I'm not familiar with the site.
Oh, meetup.com.
Oh, meetup.com. Got it. Thank you.
It's so cool. Customers is already there. And then the third thing, the third thing, for me, the third thing is you yourself, the word distressed property expert, that's actually a bold statement. That itself is a unique selling proposition. So I put it everywhere. Remember, I was a brand new agent, right? So everybody in my office, realtor, John Doe realtor, everybody's a realtor. I'm the only one that Rudy Kusuma, distressed property expert, certified distressed property expert. Everybody asked me, what is that? I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
It's just
I used to tell agent groups back during the foreclosure crisis days that they really needed to specialize that way, because I can't tell you how much marketing junk from local agents, and they all say they're local market experts. So everybody apparently is a local market expert, but there's nothing to make me pick one from another. So your idea there makes a lot of sense. I would also suggest that in today's market, a little different than, even though it wasn't that long ago, 2008, 2010, social media was not quite the juggernaut that it is today. So I'd imagine just posting some of the same kind of information Rudy and Debbie are talking about on your Facebook feed, in your Twitter, in your Instagram, will probably get some people to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested and I need some help. So I wouldn't overlook your normal communications channels like Facebook, like Instagram, like Twitter, like LinkedIn. These are all things you can post for free, or you can even advertise pretty cheaply on a lot of those channels.
Yeah, it's
Hey, Rick, can I have 30 seconds?
Yeah.
All right, so this is what I teach. Everybody can do a selfie, they can record something. When you're really confident, you do a Facebook Live. When you're not, you practice it over and over again. You go, hey everyone, Tony Martinez, your local real estate expert, and I have some great news. I have earned my CDPE. I'm now a certified distressed property expert. What this means is I'm able to help individuals that are struggling with their mortgage payments. Yes, there are a lot of Americans out there right now that are not able to make their mortgage payments and don't know what to do. If this is you or someone you know, please understand foreclosure is not the only option. Reach out to me, give them my information. If there's anything possible that can be done, I will explore it. So remember, for all your real estate needs and distressed property homeowner needs, call Tony Martinez. This is what they can be doing every single day. It doesn't take rocket science, doesn't take a degree or anything else. It just takes, because what happens is, you know who you don't have a list of? You don't have a list of people that are behind on their payments and not yet in foreclosure.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
And by the way,
yeah,
don't accept an offer to get a list like that from anybody, because it's illegal. It is against the law. And there were companies back in the day who were trying to push those services. And if you're caught with a list like that, it can have devastating consequences for you going forward.
Yeah.
And right now, what Tony is saying, Rick, because CDP already give the educational content, because we are educating people. Now you leverage, when I first started, there is no social media. Right now, we leverage the Facebook, and the cool thing about Facebook, we can retarget that video over and over and over, literally every week. Before, I only speak about 20 people a week because they literally have to come into my office. Today, we can literally speak to, like, I have 10,000 people on my Facebook, 100,000 on my Instagram. Literally, we can speak to 100,000 people by doing that. And the cool thing about this, Rick, the content is already provided by the CDP. Like, literally, we are just reading it. Right now with technology,
Tony, you need to hire Rudy as your chief revenue officer. But
I just wrote a separate text to him and I put, I love you.
So we are at the top of the hour. I want to be respectful to everybody's time, but I appreciate all the guidance and insight, Tony, that you and Debbie and Rudy have shared today. I do hope that some AREAA folks will take you up on your generous offer for the special for AREAA. And if nothing else, I hope a lot of the attendees today will take some of the learnings that you guys have shared and make it part of their ongoing practices. So on behalf of AREAA's default task force and AREAA National, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you three for sharing your insights and guidance.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.